But we'll talk about that in another episode. So, that being said, I want to go ahead and get started. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this live stream segment of Mikase Sukasa. And as always, I am your humble host, Niko House. Make sure that you subscribe to us on Roku. Go ahead and join our Patreon if you have not yet. And that's going to be in the link in the description below. Of course, as always, I want to give a shout out to JustNForm. First of all, wow, there have been a lot of people joining JustNForm recently. And I'm guessing it's because of the Jimmy Dore video. People have just grown tired of the censorship from Facebook and Twitter, and I think that when people go to JustNForm, they see not only can you, you have all the benefits that you would have with like a Twitter or a Facebook, but you're not in an echo chamber. You can see anything and everything if you choose or when you choose. You also, if you are, maybe you don't like being write all the time, but you want to write every now and then, you can actually write and still have your article seen by everybody on the website. It's really cool. People have loved it. A lot of people have reached out to me today talking about how much they loved it. So go sign up for justnform.com right now and make sure that you add me as a friend. I'd love to have you. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and get started. Oh, also, if you want to join, if you want to have your comment read out for all of YouTube and Roku TV to see, make sure that you go ahead and drop a super chat. We'll get you shouted out. Look. Being a Floridian, living in Miami, it's funny having to constantly have the conversation about Andrew Gillum. Because anybody who has talked to me in the past would tell you the same thing that I've pretty much said consistently throughout his candidacy, which is he seemed like a nice enough guy, but he seems naive. He lacks substance, and I always got the feeling that he was looking past me or anybody he talks to the next office. He seemed nice, but very disingenuous. And you can take that how you want to. He didn't swear out Super PAC money very early. That was asked of him. Never happened, which was a red flag for me. I was like, okay, well, he's still talking about Medicare for all. At the time, he still said that he was going to engage in, in helping to protect the environment. At one point, he was even talking about election justice. And I was like, I'm an objective person, and I will give someone an objective chance. But there's one thing that anybody who's watching this channel or anybody who knows me already knows. The one thing that I'm not going to be conned into doing, pressured into doing, or one thing I'm going to pressure anybody else to do is to vote for somebody who has been less than on the up and up. And here's what I mean by that. DeSantis is 100% likely a racist. Okay, 95% likely a racist. And that's true. But when Gillum coalesces with those who have approved of, passed, and even helped put forth racist policies in Florida and across the country as state or as national legislators, when you claim that you're going to help protect the environment, but then you sit right next to the sugar queen, as shown here in the thumbnail if you haven't seen it, when you are claiming to be a Bernie-crat, if you will, an Our Revolution candidate, and then you're doing private fundraisers with Hillary Clinton? No. It is not my job to drag myself to the poll and vote for you. It is your job as a politician to earn my vote. Why is that? Why do I feel that way? Because this is a mindset that I believe more people should take on. When someone says, well, what, your only two choices are Gillum and DeSantis. like a broken record, right? Here's the problem with that logic. You're assuming that I think that voting is the primary step in affecting the outcome of a political or of politics in general. I don't believe that. I've seen enough. I've done enough to know, if you could read public news and you can know. Ask those people who just got purged in Georgia. I bet if Democrats would have focused on election integrity in Georgia, they wouldn't have lost 50,000 of their voters recently. And guess what? That was a horrible thing. And I 100% agree. But this wasn't the first time that I have brought up election integrity. Right? In fact, I know a guy down here who supported election integrity too. And guess what they did to his ballots? They destroyed them and no one was held accountable. And what did Andrew Gillum say about that? What did he say that he would do to hold people accountable for literally violating federal election laws and destroying ballots? He hasn't even brought it up. So the last thing on my list to affect political outcomes is voting. We get there. That is the conclusion. However, if you're not talking about election integrity, if you are not introducing year-long working to introduce, put forth, and bring attention to ballot initiatives in your state, in your localities, then at the end of the day, I'm not going to say I can care less who you vote for, but it doesn't matter. Because your votes can be taken away like that. If you're in the wrong city, the wrong precinct, the wrong state, in the wrong election, your vote can be. Ask those New Yorkers what happened in that Cynthia Nixon election. You all recall, I covered it, Jimmy Dore covered it, Lee Camp even covered it. What is a vote that never gets counted? What is that worth? A pat on the back? And even if you did vote and you voted for the establishment candidate who won, what is that victory worth? A headache because you're going to have to spend the next 4 years fighting them. You can spend the next 4 years fighting any candidate. Or you could spend, which is what you should be doing. You should spend your efforts introducing ballot initiatives or fighting for ballot initiatives. Fighting, I don't know how else to say it, but once again, the last thing on the list is voting. When we're finding out every single day our votes are counting less and less. Why do I bring this up? I bring this up because it seems like Bernie Sanders feels the same way I do. Real quick, Justin B. Thanks for the super chat. Niko, great analysis. What do you think about some independents running for governor in Florida? Bruce Stanley is a super progressive. There are options besides D and R. I would encourage people to vote for him. From what I've read, the only issue, and I wouldn't really call it an issue, it's just kind of a weird thing. I know a lot of Greens in Florida and a lot of progressive Democrats in Florida and a lot of independents. And I haven't heard of or met Bruce Stanley in any of the circles that I've run in. And I don't know where he came from. And so I'm not really sure. I don't know how to feel about him yet. I would need to see more of him. I would love to perhaps interview him. I follow him on Twitter, but I had not heard of him until last week. And that's not really a good sign because in my opinion, I feel like that means you, just as a personal thing, I don't know if it's true, but I'm saying it just sometimes could feel like you're not taking the race seriously if at this point I didn't hear about you until early voting started. But if I do vote for a gubernatorial candidate, I should say, because that is an option, I'll take my ass up to the poll and I will sit there and say, you know what? I don't like any of these people, and walk my ass right out, because guess what? That's democracy. And I would rather exercise my right to vote by looking at the options, weighing them out, and walking out, voting for ballot initiatives, and that's it, than vote someone who will be responsible for wreaking havoc on our democracy. Sorry. But I'll get up and go, though. I like to look at my options. So, like I said, I'll bring this up because it seems like Bernie Sanders probably agrees with me about Andrew Gillum, Granted, Bernie has pissed me off a lot recently. I will admit that. I think that he makes mistakes. I don't think that he's a perfect human being. And I know for a fact, unfortunately, Bernie doesn't know everything I know about everything. Because my job, I'm addicted to not addicted to politics, but I'm addicted to politics and somewhat addicted to research. And I have a show that I have to do that literally requires me to, or first of all, hundreds of people send me stuff a day or a week. And so I get that. He's an older style guy who's not online. He gets his information from his closest people. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. Get it? Still doesn't make me feel better about it, but whatever. But every now and then, if you don't know one thing about Bernie Sanders, anybody who's worked on his campaign can tell you this, Bernie does not like being betrayed. And he does not like looking like a fool. When Bernie Sanders came out to campaign for Andrew Gillum, Andrew Gillum may not have been the most perfect candidate, but I will say that it was pretty clear, based on Bernie Sanders' own personal tweets, based off of what Andrew Gillum talked about mostly, based off of every progressive's conversation to date about Gillum when he first introduced himself into the to the superstardom world. He was running on Medicare for all. Bernie clearly supported him, even if it was loosely, because at the end of the day, I agree with Bernie that Medicare for all is like priority number one. Our people are dying. Like as a domestic policy, of course, ending war is the number one thing, but Medicare for all is guess how many people would not join the military if they actually had health care? I'm gonna put it like that. They would have to institute a draft or something. So when Bernie came to introduce this, or came to speak for him and endorse him, I thought, okay, we'll see what happens. But the first tweet I made the next day, I said, hey, in more or less words, I said, Andrew, don't become Obama, because we're going to have to hold you accountable. Don't become Obama, because we're going to have to hold you accountable. And guess what he decided to do? He decided to become Obama almost immediately. Not even a full 24 hours after he wins the Democratic primary election. Guess what Andrew Gillum does? He changes his rhetoric on Medicare for all, but it wasn't just that. He changed everything. I believe he believes in Medicare for all, but he'll fight to strengthen the ACA. Why can't you fight for Medicare for all? What is it? I believe that our environment is suffering. Okay? You don't gotta believe it, motherfucker. It's true. You don't get to choose whether or not you believe that the environment is suffering. I need some concrete policies. Who do you plan to hold accountable? Why are you taking money from Big Sugar? Why are you with the sugar queen, Debbie Wasserman Schultz? Better yet, how you know that Bernie Sanders has spoken very negatively of Bloomberg and his stop and frisk policies in the past. It was a racist policy. The court ruled that it was. Why are you campaigning with Bloomberg? So Tim Canova endorses him. Bernie Sanders endorses him. And he slaps both of them in the face by sitting down with Debbie. And then to make matters worse, if you go to his Facebook page, he actually wrote a letter to try and defend himself because he was getting throttled for taking an endorsement by Hillary Clinton and doing a fundraiser with Hillary Clinton. Throttled. And then you know what this you know what he had the nerve to say? He said, I'm writing this letter to address the negative comments that I've gotten about being endorsed in fundraising with Hillary Clinton. And I know this is a familiar feeling because I got the same reactions whenever Bernie Sanders said that he was going to endorse me. Bullshit. You got the same reactions from the entire world as for Bernie Sanders endorsing you as Hillary Clinton endorsing you. Who believe that? I don't believe that. You don't believe that. And we don't have a reason to believe that because whenever Hillary Clinton endorsed you, you felt like you had to go out of your way to write a letter to address the entire public, which, by the way, go to the comment sections if you want a good laugh, you want to know why he's going to lose the election. When I spoke, and now I don't like him, but when I spoke about Andrew Gillum, it was because I'm like, yo, I don't know what you're trying to do or what you think is necessary to win. This is not it. This will lose you the election. This is bad strategy. Doesn't matter whether or not I like you. I'm telling you, this is a bad strategy. From somebody who's on the ground, to somebody who talks to people every single day in Florida, this is a horrible strategy to the point where he had to write a letter. He got so much backlash for Hillary Clinton endorsing him. That woman is the kiss of death, and you decided to go fundraise. So, lo and behold, well, like I said, by the way, just as an aside, he didn't write that letter whenever Bernie Sanders endorsed him because nobody thought of it as negative. I don't. Why didn't you write a letter? If everybody hated it, put it like this: if everybody hated it when Bernie Sanders endorsed you, why were you just so proud to talk about it? And you're saying that you had the same reaction. That's that centrism. That's that both sides of the argument. I understand both sides. Get the fuck out of here. That's intellectually lazy and a cop-out. There's no both sides to this. And interestingly enough, some of y'all might not know this because a lot of you are Bernie Sanders supporters. You know that Florida has been in early voting since the 15th. Gillum talked about it. Gillum talked about it. A lot of politicians who supported Gillum also talked about it. Go to Bernie Sanders' Twitter right now and check if he endorses and is supporting Andrew Gillum still. And yet I still get all this. He's the best we have. If he's the best we have to offer, then what does that mean to me? I get it. If you're one of those people who literally do nothing other than vote and get on Twitter and vote and get on Twitter and complain and vote and get on Twitter and complain about the same people you just voted for, I get it. Maybe voting's the best thing for you. I get it. But just be adult enough, immature enough to admit you don't know how to affect the elections in any other way. Bernie made a mistake by endorsing him. It was a calculated gamble. I get it. It really was. However, he made a mistake, and early voting has started, and this is one of the biggest races in the country. Bernie didn't say, get out and go vote for Gillum, did he? Look from October the 15th, go to Senator Sanders' Twitter, look for October the 15th up until this point. Show me where he says go out and get out and vote for Bernie. People telling me I should go out and get out the vote. Like GOTV is, once again, like I said earlier, the last step. If you're not addressing election fraud, if you're not advocating for ballot initiatives, If you're not, I mean, there's so many steps, and everybody has their different ways, obviously, right? So I started a radio show, and I started a network, and my network hosts town halls and debates and uplifts candidates and brings the truth and lets you know what initiatives are going on. And I'm starting a nonprofit, and me and my partner started a social media platform. So like that's my way of contributing to national level politics, and I still do work locally. I cover local candidates. Obviously, I cover Tim Canova and help fundraise for him. So that's what I do. Other people have different ways. Some people work for initiative and issue specific nonprofits. That's cool. That is what we need. Some people start their own nonprofits. That's cool. That is my decision. When someone says, I mean, everybody should have a comeback for that if you're active. But somebody says, "Well, what are your options? Andrew Gillum or DeSantis?" No, my options are calling out election fraud. If those are my only two options, my options are calling out election fraud, holding people accountable. I'd rather be on the side of holding people accountable. Because guess what? You hold enough people accountable, eventually people are going to start doing the right thing. Negative reinforcement sometimes works. But here's what happens when you congratulate somebody for selling out and electing them to governor. They have these habits of ending up in the Congress and the Senate, and then they become like the first black president ever, and then sell all of us down the river after really only winning because he got like 99% of the black vote at one point. I think during the general election, he had 99% of the black vote, like 2% margin of error. During the Democratic primary election, he had 90% of the black vote. That's what happens when you don't pay attention to what people's motives and intentions are. Justin, appreciate the super chat. Bruce Stanley looks great. Number one platform issue, election reform, including ranked choice voting and election holiday. Well, Bruce Stanley just got my damn vote. That was easy. See how easy that was? I'm not a hard person to please. I'm really not. Bruce Stanley just got my vote that quick. Good job, Justin. That was the best $5 you spent today. But I don't think that people really understand the method to the madness. So I want to just do a really quick breakdown. So whenever you have this conversation with your followers or your friends on Facebook or your family even, or people you know at work or whatever, help them understand something. When you this is like basic psychology. When you reward bad behavior, people think they can continue to get away with bad behavior. In fact, not only will they think they can continue to get away with it, they will double down on the bad behavior. That's a thing. That's like psychology 101. If someone is not, that's why we have punishment, right? Because when someone does something bad, they need a punishment. When somebody does something good, they're rewarded. They should be rewarded. So what happens when you reward something bad? Well, they weren't punished for doing the bad thing. In fact, they were treated better. So let me continue to do the same dumb things that I was doing in the past, because apparently this is what I should be doing. And then everybody else says, well, if what he's doing is so bad, why is he still being rewarded for it? Clearly, the reward means that whatever he's doing is mostly good. That's what people think. But here's what happens when you hold somebody accountable. When you hold people accountable, pressure busts pipes. When the Democrats lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elections, and then the progressives start to see the Democratic Party getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And by the way, I am all for starting a third party, by the way. are building up third parties. I'm one of the biggest advocates for it, but I also am in the camp of people that believes the Democrats are the second most powerful party in the country. And if you think they shouldn't be taken care of at all, this whole letting the Democratic Party die thing, you have to understand how much money they have invested into that party. It won't die yet. I don't think it could be totally transformed, but I do think they need to be dealt with. And so when you weaken them by holding them accountable and punishing them for bad deeds, punishing them for bad candidates, eventually they learn. And oh, by the way, not only do the Democrats learn, but the Republicans do too. Because guess what happens? If Republicans are doing bad things, right? Eventually people catch on. People catch on. And they vote you out. Now, it may be another Republican that comes in, but he might do the same. Because this is a generation that's more woke and more educated and more informed than ever before. It is not the most woke that it could be, but we're getting there. So you have the same logic applies. Maybe not as quickly for the Republicans. That's a different discussion. I'm not going to say anything about that. But maybe not as... But the idea that we have to vote for either or this party or that party, these are our options for now. No, actually, I think party politics is what? There are problems with the Greens, just like there are problems with the Libertarians, just like there are problems with the Democrats, just like there are problems with the Republicans. And guess where all these problems come from? Money in politics, election integrity, and inherent greed. And policies not being passed to allow the maximum amount of ballot access and election integrity that this country needs in order to go forward. If you're not talking about money in politics, if you're not talking about ranked choice voting, if you're not talking about just election integrity in general, if you're not promoting your local candidates even. Every day I'm in Miami, so like the law is a really important thing down here because obviously, we have like, what Miami's known for. So I always pay attention to the judges that are running, federal judges, the people who are going to affect the everyday lives of the people who end up caught up in the system. That's the choices that I make. I make those choices. I see what they want. And guess what? If I look up their background and they haven't had a sturdy background, then they don't get a vote either. But the problem is that there are a lot of people with their careers and their social media presence riding on people like Gillum, on people like Beto O'Rourke, on people like Kevin De Leon out of California. Their careers are riding on the image of them being progressive. It is total vanity. It is superficial, but because they don't know how to actually sufficiently explain why because they don't want to do the research, why those people are not right, and they don't know how to guide you because when they get presented with that question, well, who are you going to vote for? What are the options? They don't want to say, well, why does the options only come down to who am I going to vote for, rather than what am I going to do to prevent these two options from ever being presented to us again. I'm going to make sure that the next time, these are not the options that we're left with. I'm going to make sure that the next time, this is on the ballot. I'm going to make sure that the next time this ordinance is on the ballot. I'm going to put pressure to my city council members rather than trying to put pressure on a pie in the sky situation like with Andrew Gillum, saying it put pressure on voters to choose to vote against their conscience for what? So they can say that they got an empty victory right after he turns around and screws us over, and then you have to focus all your energy into saying, well, he's still better than a Republican, which ask Californians about Kamala Harris how that worked out for them. Ask her. You know where she's at now? She went from being an attorney general screwing California over to a senator screwing the country over to running for president to screw the world over. But please, everybody, let's vote for Andrew Gillum because we don't know how this story ends. I don't write history. I just keep track. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for watching this episode of Mikasa Sukasa. Make sure you join our Patreon. Join us on Roku, first independent news network on Roku. Yes, we are technically right now the highest rated news network on Roku as well. So make sure you go give us 5 stars and keep us that way. Just join us on JustNForm, the social media platform where all voices are welcomed. And more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.